So we'll have another example using Stokes' theorem, but this time we want to compute the surface integral of the curl of our vector field. So to do that, we'll use the line integral in Stokes' theorem. So we're given a vector field, and we're also told that our surface S is the paraboloid along the positive y-axis, y equals x squared plus z squared, where y is less than or equal to 1. So let's recall that Stokes' theorem tells us that the line integral over a closed boundary of a surface is equal to the surface integral of the curl of the vector field. And so this time we're basically wanting to calculate the right-hand side, but to do that, we're going to use the left-hand side, the line integral, since we want to use Stokes' theorem here. Let's create a sketch of the paraboloid that we're given so that we can think about the boundary curve, which we need, and we also want to consider the orientation of the surface with respect to our boundary curve. So here is our paraboloid, which is in the direction of the positive y-axis. So let me just do a quick sketch of this paraboloid. And looks something like this. And y is less than or equal to 1, so we know that this would be when y is 1. Now, if we use outward pointing normals, right? So if we imagine that the normals on our surface are pointing outward at every point, then we need to think about how we would orient our curve so that it's compatible with outward turning normals, outward facing normals. So I'm making the assumption here that we want outward facing normals. And the way that we're going to orient this is we're going to think if I walk along the curve, if I walk along the rim, right, our boundary curve, with my head pointing up, out towards, along the normals, then I want my region to be on my left. So we might orient it this way, right? So that if I'm walking along this way, the region's on my left, my surface is on my left. And on the XZ plane, if we think about what that might look like, well, the XZ plane is going to look like this, right? If we're looking kind of from behind the paraboloid, along the positive x-axis, we see that we have a curve. It looks like a circle. The cross-section will be a circle. So we're going to have a cross-section that's a circle, or the shadow of this curve on the XZ plane will be a circle. And the way that it's oriented, if we look here in that direction, right, if we face this direction, we see that our circle will be oriented in the counterclockwise direction on the XZ plane. All right, so we've dealt with the orientation, and let's recall how we calculate our line integral on the left, right? In order to calculate a line integral, and this one's a circulation integral, we have the circulation on a curve of f dot dr means that we're going to need to parametrize our curve. So let's say this is from some parameter t equals a to t equals b of the vector field along the curve that we've parametrized, dotted with r prime of t dt. So this is the work that we need to do. And so let's go ahead and do that. So I want to parametrize. We have a vector field that's in R3. So I want to write our curve, our boundary curve R of t, as a three-dimensional curve. So if we look back at our green circle on the XZ plane, well, that's when y is 1. When y is 1, that tells us that x squared plus z squared is equal to 1. So this is a unit circle. And so the first component will just be cosine t. The second component will be sine t because this circle has radius 1. And the third component, oh, sorry, that's not right. The x component will be cosine t. Y is 1. and the z component will be sine t. So I'm treating z like I would a y regularly, but we're on the xz plane. So any point on this unit circle, the x component is cosine t, and the z component is sine t, and y is fixed at 1. So there's our parametrization, and we'll let, since we want to go all the way around, we'll let t go from 0 to 2 pi, so that we have a closed boundary. All right, let's now find our vector, evaluate our vector field along our parametrized curve. So we go back to our vector field, and the first component of the vector field is y minus 1 sine of e to the x to the z to the y. But we see that when y is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So the first component will just be 0. And I'm looking up here at the components of our vector field. First component, 0. When we evaluate the second component of our vector field, we've got x, which is cosine t, times y, which is 1, times z, which is sine t. So we have a cosine t times sine t, e to the cosine t times sine t. And our third component, xz plus y, will be cosine t sine t plus 1. And now we're going to we need to find r prime of t, so we can find the dot product between the vector field and r prime. And so r prime of t is going to be negative sine t. So I'm differentiating r of t. This will be negative sine t, 0, and cosine t. And now we're going to do the dot product between these two vectors. So f of r of t dotted with r prime of t will give us 0. Great. 0 times negative sine t, that's just 0. 0 times this stuff, that's 0. And then we get cosine t times the third component. So I have a cosine squared t sine t plus cosine t using the distributive property. Okay, now we can set up our line integral. We know that we're integrating from t equals 0 to t equals 2 pi. We have found the dot product with our vector field and r prime, and that's going to give us cosine squared t sine t plus cosine of t dt. So let's go ahead and integrate this. I'm going to use a u sub here, where u is cosine t, du is negative sine t, so that's going to give me a negative cosine cubed t over 3 plus, and the antiderivative of cosine t is just a positive sine t, and we're evaluating this from 0 to 2 pi. And that's going to give us, well, cosine of 2 pi is 1, so that's a negative 1/3. Sine of 2 pi is 0, minus cosine of 0 is 1, so a negative 1/3. And sine of 0 is 0. So we get a third, negative a third plus a third, which is 0. And that is our answer. So here we used the line integral to evaluate the surface integral, or the flux of the curl of f. And that is Stokes' theorem.